Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley, your host and beat reporter. And you know what we are going to say? Forget it. We don't need introductions today. The biggest news today, arguably the biggest trade in Jacksonville Jaguars history, arguably the biggest NFL draft move the Jacksonville Jaguars have ever made. The Jaguars completed a trade with the Cleveland Browns, going from number 5 to number 2, and the Jaguars selected Colorado star and Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter. Hunter is obviously a very dynamic player on both sides of the ball. You guys have heard me say before, I've always seen him as a corner who you can sprinkle in on offense. It looks like the way the Jaguars are going to go with his development, James Gladstone has been saying, is going to be by start putting him on offense first. Putting, a lot on his plate offensively because there are more nuances, of course, to learn at the position. And cornerback is ultimately a more natural position for Hunter. It's something that he's played, much more extensively, much longer. But make no mistake about it that the Jaguars see absolute all-pro, Pro Bowl, even Hall of Fame potential with Travis Hunter as a rare two-way player. James Gladstone went as far as to say, in an interview with Jaguars.com after the pick, he thinks Hunter is the kind of player who can alter the trajectory of the entire sport. And it's rare to see executives, anybody in football, talk about any one player like that. Even, Trevor Lawrence, when he was picked and lauded as a generational talent, you didn't hear that kind of commentary, from Jacksonville. So Trevor Lawrence, absolutely is one of the biggest winners, in my opinion, of this entire move. Lawrence now has two rare dynamic threats at wide receiver between Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter. It is really hard to put it into words what kind of duo that can be. Just look at them as athletes. Brian Thomas Jr. with his release package, his explosiveness, his long speed, his size, his catch radius, what he does as a downfield threat, and also what he does and with his short area quickness as a route runner to separate from receivers. Then you add in a guy like Travis Hunter, some of the best ball skills to come out the draft in decades, in my opinion. Just a natural receiver, a natural athlete, the things that he can do really, with his explosiveness, with his quick change of direction ability, he is somebody who gives the Jaguars a chance right away to make an impact on both sides of the ball. As we said, General Manager James Gladstone said that they intend to really start him off on offense. I think you'll see him on defense now and then. They can definitely use him in a lot of different ways. Defensive coordinator Anthony Campanile, spoke to him on the phone, as well as did offensive coordinator Grant Udinski. First player announced as both a cornerback and wide receiver at the NFL draft. Obviously, a momentous moment, for the Jaguars as an organization and for that new regime to start. But it's not cheap. And frankly, the reality of it is they need Hunter to become an all-pro-like player to justify what they gave up in this trade. Now, there are a lot of things that indicate Hunter can be exactly that player. Obviously, he's a rare athlete. Obviously, he can impact the team on both sides of the ball. He gives the Jaguars a blue-chip talent, really similar and akin, I think, to when they drafted Jalen Ramsey at number 5 overall, in the 2016 NFL draft. And I just think ultimately this was a way for the Jaguars, and they said they're going to be bold. They're not going to shy away from moves like this. This is bold. This is a big swing at the plate because ultimately, looking at the entire package, what the Jaguars gave up. So the Jaguars gave up the number 5 pick, obviously. Let's move up to number 2. They also gave up their second-round pick, which is at pick number 36, a fourth-round pick 126, and also the 2026 first-round pick, which is obviously a massive, massive trade. The Browns now have 2 first-round picks in next year's draft, and the Jaguars do not have any. The Jaguars received, obviously, the number 2 pick, a fourth-round pick, a number 104 to kind of offset, losing 126, and a sixth-round pick this year at pick 200. A massive, massive trade by the Jaguars. It's, I've been told for months now that Travis Hunter, the number 1 player on the Jaguars board. The franchise is completely enamored with him, completely enamored of what he can do as an athlete on both sides of the ball. what he could do to help Trevor Lawrence, what he can do with Brian Thomas Jr., who he is as a person. I'm told they're just as impressed by that as they are by Travis Hunter, the football player. Phone has been going crazy the last couple of days. I do believe if the Jaguars stayed at 5, they would have picked Ashton Jeanty. I firmly do not believe the pick would have been Ted McMillan. I very strongly, report and source that the Jaguars were not interested in Ted McMillan at number 5 overall. But they now have Travis Hunter. They now have Brian Thomas Jr. on the other side of him. And Trevor Lawrence now has 2 potential number 1 alpha male wide receivers at his disposal. It's hard to say Trevor Lawrence isn't walking into one of the best situations, if not clearly the best, if you count in coaching and scheme, of his entire NFL career. So the Jaguars definitely gave up a lot. They're going to need Travis Hunter to obviously live up to that billing, considering what they gave up. But all indications from the very rare, and people love to throw this word around, but potentially generational athlete are that he's the type of player who can do it. Thank you guys for listening. My name is John Shipley. As always, we'll be back next time.